Assalamu alaikum, Nazir.
Alaikum assalam, Sayyid Maulana. How are you?
Good. Is it okay to switch on the camera?
For now, yes. But in the next 5 minutes, you'll switch it off. And then when I introduce you, you will turn it back on.
Inshallah, inshallah, inshallah. All well?
Alhamdulillah, all good. I spoke to Shabir Khalfan, so he'll be joining us in the next few seconds.
I think he joined earlier, a little bit earlier, and then he left again. Oh, there he is.
There he is, okay.
Assalamu
alaikum. Shabir, can you hear us?
Hello, assalamu alaikum. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes. Wa alaikum assalam.
Okay, it's a pleasure finally seeing you, man.
Likewise.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, Habibi.
Alhamdulillah, Shabir bhai, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, you okay?
Your du'as, alhamdulillah. You are leading this session today.
Long time, brother. Haven't met you.
I know. I don't come to Dar Islam as often as Sayyid Ali and Sayyid Hassan are there.
Yes. Otherwise, all okay with you?
Alhamdulillah, your du'as, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Shukr.
So you are leading the session today. Huh? I'm just going to piggyback on you.
La haul, Sayyid. Pro vichara.
Inshallah.
You are my fallback support. In case I get stuck, then I do apari nagyawadari dija.
No, I have no idea of the presentation, so that's why I requested that you begin the session and then we contribute towards whatever is being discussed, inshallah.
Okay, we'll try with whatever little knowledge we have, inshallah.
Inshallah.
If we can touch even one life, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, inshallah.
How is Ali? It's a long time I haven't met him as well.
Yeah, I think since the lockdown, everybody is literally in a lockdown. Nobody is leaving home. We're all here. Things are getting worse.
Yeah, it's scary, huh?
Yeah.
I admire your collection of books, Syed.
This is my reference library. Then I have in the office, I have the one that I use every day. So this is Majlis. This has now become our member.
Remember, mashallah, one thing I spend on is just books, huh?
Mashallah. On your area of expertise.
Yes.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
So what we'll do, Syed, is we'll just introduce the mental health part, what it is, mental well-being part, what it is, and then like physical health, we have mental health, kind of just the essence of it. And then I don't know if Mohammed Bhai will ask the question on different mental health conditions or what causes it and risk factors, and otherwise it will become monologue. If only I am speaking, it will become very monologue.
Exactly. So I'm not sure which direction Nazir Bhai will guide us. What is the direction of the discussion? What are we going to do?
Basically, what I'll be doing is sort of, for lack of a better word, moderating the talk. The talk is actually between you two, in a sense that you are feeding the mass, you're feeding the audience information about this subject. That's the main idea. Along the way, we will get questions whereby I'll interrupt you and ask you some questions, or I'll direct the conversation or steer it to the topics we had at hand, if you remember the poster. So that's the basic idea. Maulana Sahib, when Shabir Bhai gives the introduction, it's probably 1, 2, 3, 4 minutes, whatever it takes. Then after that, feel free to jump in at any time between you two and have a discussion, if so,
So I think from my perspective, I don't know what is going to happen, but from my perspective, I think what Shabir Bhai is going to speak, I'm just going to add to what he says. We are going to be on the same line, same wavelength with regard to mental health. I will just probably come up with some points to say, I reiterate the point or strengthen or support the point that Shabir Bhai is making, or anything else that you are expecting from this?
No, that's pretty much it. And right now, we are actually live. So while a lot of people have not joined us, sorry, I didn't even know we were live already, but a lot of people have not joined us. So you'll just turn off your videos, and then when I introduce you, you will come back on. We have another 10 minutes or so, 5-10 minutes.
Okay. So the discussions are what we just mentioned, yeah?
Yes,
correct.
Sayed. So basically, जो poster में आई ना हमारे, जो depression, anxiety. So what are the common mental health conditions? What are the causes? How can they be prevented? How severe it is for people to know, about mental health? Just talk around that, yeah. Basically, so it's awareness, basically about well-being, mental well-being.
Inshallah.
Yeah.
Inshallah.
Thanks.
So we still have about 7 minutes, inshallah.
Inshallah. But we are live. They can listen. They can hear us, right?
Sure. चलिए No.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. After almost a month with another break that we had, we are back online, and we'd like to welcome all our audiences for tonight. Truly, tonight we have a global panelist team. We want to first introduce our very own Sayyid Naqvi, Sayyid Muhammad Naqvi, who is from the United Kingdom. It is an honor to have him on our program, the talk show for tonight. And tonight's topic is mental well-being. Sayyid, salamun alaikum, and welcome to the program.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for having me in the program.
And of course, now that he's put his camera on, he needs no introduction. Everyone knows him, and of course, we'll have him on our program. Next is Shabir Hussain. Shabir Hussain Khalfan is from Dar es Salaam. He is currently the CEO of Fikr Afia, an NGO promoting well-being, creating awareness, and fighting stigma around mental health. Shabir Bhai is also a therapist dealing in CBT, REMD, and EFT, Master Life, Wellness, and Relationship Coach. He is also a community fit champion and national trainer. At the same time, he is the British Psychology Society Certified Psychometric Tools Administrator. Most of you in East Africa will know Shabir when he turns on his screen. He is the chairman of capacity building under the Africa Federation, as well as a marital mediator. Shabir Bhai Khalfan, salamun alaikum. Welcome to the program for tonight.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah, and thank you very much.
So as you are aware, for our audience, our tonight's program is mental well-being, and there is no better time to talk about this issue than this year, 2020, when people are facing immense pressure under lockdown and quarantine and being at home for extended periods of time. Shabir Bhai, you know, human beings are created social creatures. So being at home for such extended periods of time can create or have an impact psychologically. Why don't you start with a brief introduction before we move on to the topic?
Thank you very much, Shabir. Okay, so as you rightly iterated, the topic is mental well-being. And what is mental well-being? So basically, as per WHO or World Health Organization, it's a state in which an individual realizes his or her own potential, is able to cope with day-to-day stresses of life, and is a contributing member of a society. So these are the conditions or things which makes a person be mentally, as per the WHO, is mentally well-being. Now, if there is a well-being on one side of the coin, if a person is not contributing, can't realize his own potential, or cannot be contributing member, or having some thoughts or some behavioral issues, then obviously he's not on the well-being spectrum, rather on the other side of the coin, which is ill-being. I don't like to use that word, but yeah, it's ill-being or having some conditions or disorders for mental health. Now, when we talk of mental health disorders, actually they are called disorders once they are diagnosed. But before diagnosed, I would like to call them conditions. So yes, there are mental health conditions that a human beings go through. And the good part is the earlier the intervention, the easier the recovery. We have to understand that we all have mental health concerns in a day-to-day life. As you are aware, our lives are full of stresses these days, not these days, since times of we have moved to social media. I think the stress has become more so. And we all have concerns from time to time. However, those concerns are not mental health conditions. They become conditions when the signs and symptoms continue to appear frequently, and they kind of affect your functioning daily to daily. So then you are having a mental health condition. And obviously, at this point, I would like to say mental health condition is not at two poles like good and bad. Rather, it's a spectrum whereby you have at one end a good mental health, and then there's a spectrum towards the poor mental health. So it's a spectrum of being, and it's very liquid, and we all move around the spectrum in day-to-day lives, basically.
Now, Shabir, if I can interject here and just ask you, you brought up something that said ever since social media started, mental health or well-being is of a concern. What exactly about social media would be causing this? Because on one hand, social media has brought us together, like all three of us from different parts of the world are here. But what exactly would you think is causing issues with social media?
All right. You jump. Sorry. Is Sayed wanting to say something?
No,
right.
I'm waiting, yes.
Yeah. So basically, yes, social media has brought us together. However, remember, it's a human innate need to belong, to be acknowledged, and to be accepted in a society. And with social media, our society has become bigger because the world has turned into global village. So now I don't only want to be accepted where I live or with my family, rather I want to be accepted in the worldwide. And that's why there is this trend of wanting how many likes you have, how many followers you have, how many people are on your Facebook and stuff like that. We end up trying befriending people that we don't even know, simply because we want to build connection, but also we'll get some likes, some fan following, some way to be acknowledged and accepted in the society.
Now, apart from Maulana Saib, if I can direct this to you for now, in the Western culture or other cultures, talking about mental health they're quite open about it. But when it comes to our community, it seems to be a bit of a taboo speaking about mental health. We've tried in the past to have organizations or what are your thoughts as far as mental health is concerned in the community?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So as far as mental health is concerned, it's not only a taboo subject or a stigma that is attached to mental health only within the Muslim world. It is there everywhere, including the Western world, where there is a gradual and slow acceptance of it. And there are certain therapeutics that have been structured and developed for this. As far as mental health itself is concerned, it is a taboo subject because of the fear of weakness or vulnerability within an individual. And the stigma that is attached to mental health is due to a misguided view that the other person on the other side is somewhat different. So there is this idea of being accepted, as Shabir Bhai said, that we are social beings and we want to be acknowledged, we want to be accepted. The idea brings a discriminatory factor when an individual feels that I am different, or he is made to feel by the society that he or she is different as far as he or she is concerned. And therefore you will see that even within the Muslim world, within Islam itself, you will find that it is a subject which has a lot of taboo in it. They don't want to discuss or talk about it. And there are various things within the cultures from where we come which make us believe or feel that this idea of whatever is happening to my mind or how I feel with regard to my mind is something that is probably supernatural, or I am different, or something that is happening to me which is making me feel the way I am, and I am somewhat different from others, and I am not accepted in the society, or there is a discrimination against me. So this is what is happening, and that's why the individual who may be suffering from mental health issues will find himself or herself distancing further, isolating oneself from the other because they feel that they are different or are made to feel that they are different.
Basically, we've not handled it, or we're not handling it in a manner that we technically should. And this is something, there's a gap in our community, perhaps, if not all, then many, to handle this, especially when it comes to young children, school-age going children, when they face peer pressure with social media and the likes, bullying, all that stuff.
Indeed. So there is two aspects to it. There is one who who is going through the mental health issues himself or herself, and then there is the people he or she interacts with. During this process of interaction between each other, the other one is made to feel, for example, if he or she is made to feel discriminated against or made to feel that they are different, it adds to whatever issues they are going through, and they find themselves moving away from the norms of life, isolating themselves, feeling anxious, feeling rejected, feeling whatever. It adds to whatever they are going through in their minds.
Do you think, and Shabir Bhai also, you can, do you think our community as a whole, and of course, I'm only being the devil's advocate, so I'm not promoting or not promoting anything, but do you feel as a whole, our community is very closed in a sense that perhaps this is leading towards our youth not being exposed as much, perhaps in East Africa, more so than the Western world? What do you think about that? Is it leading? Is it a cause, perhaps?
Yes, Nazir Bhai, I'll just reiterate what Syed has said. Basically, yes, there is a huge stigma. And although we might say it's a society or culture, but society is made up of us. So it's me and you. And I'll give very good example. Imagine if I'm going, let's say, God forbid, but if any family member is going through diabetes, I don't think it's a taboo anymore. People, just, easily speak, yeah, would you have sugar tea? Yes, but please without sugar, I'm diabetic. But imagine you are going through depression. How courageous can you be to talk that I'm going through depression? It's simply because there is lack of awareness. And I wouldn't say only East Africa, but also Western world, because it's one subject that was left over for a long, long time, not looked into it. Although, yes, Western people are ahead of us in that, and they have done a lot of available facilities for these conditions. And still we are a bit bound by culture, by unawareness, and we don't talk about it. But yes, society is me and you, and it's through such programs that you are holding now that people become aware. Because mental health is like physical health, we all have it. And one day you can be on this side of the spectrum, the other day you might go down the other way spectrum. So we all go through it. It's just that we don't admit.
Maulana Saib, if I can ask you a question. When a youth might be going through such problems, I'm focusing on the youth for a reason. They are told, Surah Parig, read this Surah, go to the Maulana, and that's pretty much it. There's no a wholesome approach to this problem. What are your thoughts on that?
Indeed, it is true that this is what is happening, or this is probably what happens in various cultures or various areas of the community. However, there is no doubt in anybody's mind that as far as Islam is concerned, Islam promotes the healthy mind. Islam promotes good ethics. Islam promotes good behavior. Islam wants you and I to understand what a good behavior actually means. When it comes to the issues of mental health, for example, yes, there is Quran, for example, talks about itself that it is shifa and it is a cure for people. However, it has to be hand in hand with expert opinion. So there has to be dawa as well as dua. Both of them have to go hand in hand. You cannot just tell somebody that you go to a spiritual healer, for example, who follows the ceremonial rites of exorcism or whatever it may be, and that they will be able to eliminate this from you. True that faith has the ability to move mountains. There is no doubt that the faith can move mountains, but the detriment of this is that sometimes it can freeze the mind. So when the mind is frozen, an individual who is only looking at one particular direction and thinking that this is the only answer I have to my problem, it becomes a big issue. And therefore, the scholars of the community, the people within the community, the elders of the community, the family units, they all need to be firstly aware of the problem in itself, that this is a problem. Two, they need to give proper guidance as far as guidance is concerned, whether it is a spiritual guidance together with the integration of spiritual and religiosity integrated psychological therapy, which will allow an individual to be able to experience a better life than the life that they are going through at that particular time. So as far as the youth is concerned, true, or anyone for that matter, you go to a spiritual healer, no doubt about it. Go and speak to the spiritual healer. But the scholar who is there may not be an expert in the field of psychology, for example, and they need to be trained or at least go through certain courses to be able to deal with such certain situations. So it is of paramount importance that, yes, we do rely on dua and we do rely on the spiritual healing of it, but at the same time, we must also not neglect the fact that there are experts in this area who have developed tools to be able to make feel people better.
Now, it's possible that people feel there's a stigma towards mental health in general, but also, and Shabir Bhai, you can add on to this, but also maybe the Western approach to psychology is also different in the sense that it focuses on the ego and the self. Do what is good only for you. Don't worry about anybody around you. So here you have on one hand, the idea or ideology of mental health, which is a problem. On the other hand, you have the Western notion that it is only you that matters the most in your life, but our religion is a social religion. Shabir Bhai, what can you add to that?
Okay, Nazir Bhai, can I just start with, you had asked a very powerful question, Sayyid, about the youth. Can I give you some statistics which might be alarming? So
Yes.
for mental health conditions, 1 in 4 people go through mental health condition throughout their life, at a certain point in their life, yeah? So 1 out of 4. And then if you look at mental health conditions, 50% of mental health conditions start by age of 14 and 75% by age of 25. So this can really tell you how important these youths are to us, because with mental health conditions, the earlier the intervention, the earlier or better the cure, or at least a better life. Yeah. So imagine 50% by age of 14. You can find out mental health condition, a youth going through it, or 75% by age of 25. So it's very crucial that we do emphasize and talk these things with youth, especially children going to school starting with age of 10, 11, so they become aware. And when they have anything, we are open to listen to them without judging them. So that is the first part of just adding to what Sayyid had said. And then you asked about Western ideology. So I would say that is more a materialistic world ideology. But if you look at psychology, there are proofs of research whereby there's a research by, if I don't forget, Professor Lieberman in California, who clearly mentioned that if you study to teach others, then you study better. So that means we are social, we need social. There's a study again carried out, I think again in US, whereby people with Alzheimer's, people we call super agers, above 80, those who still had a very good memory were the ones who had friends, at least one good friend. So again, this tells you the need of socializing or having people that you care for. And if you look science-wise, then obviously it does produce hormones, love hormones, which is really good for body, and it also makes you feel good. So yes, no, it's not in psychology. It's more to do with materialistic world. But in psychology, yes, I would say yes. The environment does matter, the social connection does matter. But yes, you are sole in charge of your own well-being because you need to take care of yourself.
If I can add to what he's saying, so as far as I am concerned, yes, Islam does not want you to see, or in the teachings of ethics, for example, that Islam does not want you to see you as the focal point. This is different from when we are dealing with mental health issues, for example. Here, the individual feels very isolated. The individual feels that they are not important anymore in anybody's life. The individual feels that they have nothing else to do in this world. And some of the therapies that may be recommended to him or her who is suffering from this would be to focus on the self, to give that individual the confidence of them being something, and not that they are rejected or they are people who are discriminated against. And therefore, when you see it from that perspective, then your question of the Western society seeing me as an egoistic individual is different. When it comes to therapy, it is different.
Okay, that's an excellent way to clarify the thought process of what's going on. I do have a question here from one of our audiences. I feel that we can have intervention programs for youth as well. They should be aware of things like addiction of substances and process, social media, video games, because that's the time they go to experimental stage. Again, we're talking about the youth, and they want to try and fit in with the peers. Now, we know that, Shabir Bhai, you said in the beginning, social media. The number of likes sometimes on a post is very important for some people. And if they have less likes, they're likely to feel down and depressed within themselves, that why don't people like what I'm posting? This is something that's open and even spoken about in the West. What would you have to suggest to those who are listening and focusing just on social media?
Okay. So, Nazir Bhai, the idea is, why would I want to be liked by outsider? That's a question first. Because I'm not being acknowledged, one part. Could be that I'm not acknowledged by the people surrounding me. Or there is a subtle message of me not being fitting in properly, so I'm seeking validation from outside. Could be. So this could also be the reason. I seriously think, again, I repeat what you said, that yes, we do need gadgets. It's very good to be on social media. You make sometimes very good friends. You do networking, which is crucial. But limit your time and live in the present. We are living with having the friends who are far away, but the real friends we don't have time with. The family members sitting in the same room, everybody on their own gadget. You know, evening time, we used to be together on the dinner table or something. We have left it, and everybody's busy just trying to work on the social media. So I would think the biggest thing that we can do for our youth is spend time with them, create awareness, and give them that acknowledgement that you are contributing part of the family, of the society. We don't need to judge our youths. That's the challenge. You see, youths don't open up, even if they are going through stress or something. They don't say it, because they straight away they will be judged that you didn't do this, that's why this, you know, or this, that's why this. It doesn't work. So we need to give active listening ear to our youths and be present and listen to them what they are saying, because there might be messages which they are giving us and we are not receiving, you know, and that could lead them to other social behaviors or coping strategies. Because if I'm stressed, I'll find a coping strategy. If you don't acknowledge me as a family member, I might get stressed. If there is everyday fight in the house, I might get stressed as a youth. Who will I talk to? And then I might not find the right coping strategy, and I might end up into wrong coping strategy, one of which could be the social media, because it gives me a dopamine, which is feel good for a while. And then again, I need it again. So I need to go again on the social media to feel good again, you know. So it's constant cycle. And also the substance misuse like alcohol and drugs, because that's a wrong coping strategy I have found, but that's the coping strategy for my stress.
That's again making the youth a part of society, or wanting to be a part of society. That's why they resort to alcohol and drugs and all that. It reminds me of the Piraha people. I don't know if you've heard about them in South America. They don't believe in God, but they are the happiest people on earth because they live in the now. They don't live yesterday and they don't live for tomorrow. Maulana Sahib, if we were to use or just extract this part of their psychology and apply it to our lives, live in the now, live of what you are seeing, what would you have to say about that?
I probably have not understood your question properly as to what do you mean when you say living in the now?
So what the Piraha people, they this group, they're very few in number, just maybe 800, and they're in the forests of Brazil. But they they live for today. Now, it does not subscribe to our religion and our thought process. I understand that, but they are considered the happiest people, and they don't have any depression or psychological issues because they are living for today. Yani, they don't think about yesterday. They don't worry about tomorrow. And they have very limited knowledge in terms of who they are and their exposure to the world. But keeping that aside, the fact that they don't go through any depression or mental stress or whatever it is because they live in the present, how would that be able to, this is what researchers are talking about.
So from my understanding, one of the therapies of the mental health or psychological therapies that is given to individuals is the fact that they have to forget about everything else. There are certain focal points that they are given to live in the now. For example, breathing techniques, listening to your own breathing, and Allah knows so many other techniques that they have in which they do this. It is because the human mind is an amazing mind. It has thoughts flying around 24/7 to the extent that it overwhelms the human mind. There are so many thoughts that are crossing, so you are unable to concentrate. You are thinking about one thing, another thing is propping up in your mind, another thought is coming in your mind. So there are so many thought processes that you have to go through. And sometimes it becomes an overload. When it becomes an overload of you thinking about hundreds of things, it is this where it breaks the balance and the equilibrium that the mind has. It is here that the mental health problems, probably Shabir Bhai will correct me in this area, but it is here where the mental health problems begin. So when you look at these Piraha people, whoever they are, I haven't heard of them, but they are the people who are living in the now. They don't have, I'm assuming they don't have the social media issues like you and I have. Two, they are living as a family unit with each other. There is nothing else for them to do, probably no television for them, probably no, they don't want to know whether Biden has won or Trump has won. They have no idea whether these things exist outside or not. So these happy people, there's nothing else for them to do, nothing else for them to think about. However, when they do come to interact with the global world that you and I are interacting with, surely nobody is exempt from falling ill, whether it is physical illness or mental illness. It can affect, and I wouldn't have, I would not be surprised, for example, they may be having family problems in their own lives, for example, matrimonial issues in their own life, which may affect them, and they may be affected by the mental illness. So I don't know what it means to be happy and absolutely no problem and no mental health issues with them. I'm not sure.
They don't want to associate with the world for the very reason of these problems, believe it or not. They want to cut off from the world so that they are in their own bubble. Now, if I can, Shabir, you want to add something?
Yeah. So basically, as Sayed rightly said, you see, people many a times, if you look into depression and anxiety, which is one of the subtopics in today's talk on the poster, when you live, when anxiety, if you look at anxiety, is usually about the future. So you forget the present moment and you start living in the future. What will happen? What will happen? And that causes the anxiety because there's a negative chatter. You believe that maybe your coping strategies are lesser than the challenge in front, and you get anxiety. Remember, just a healthy warning that not all anxiety is bad. So anxiety before exam is good. Anxiety at airport when you have extra weight suitcase is fine because you need to be mindful. But when it is constant anxiety, then it's a generalized anxiety disorder, which we call GAD. So it's living into the future. If you look into depression, it's more to do with past. When a person is totally feeling that what have I achieved? I'm useless. I haven't got this. I haven't. So it's more to do with the past of a person. And in all this, what you try to do is try to, especially in anxiety, if you go to a therapist, if somebody comes to me, very simple technique, as Sayed rightly said, breathing. So focus on now, and that brings you back to your 5 senses and to the present moment. So start not living into the future. Learn from past, but don't live in past. Prepare for future, but don't live in future. live in now. And I think that's the in thing in a Western world very much, which is called mindfulness, right? Very
I
much
didn't get
coming
you. It's
up,
called what? Sorry?
in Western world, mindfulness is really coming up with yoga and, you know, meditation and all that. Yeah. So it's living it
We should
now.
be
Basically.
proud because this they're copying all of this from the Eastern Hemisphere. So we should have some sort of pride in that.
Yes.
Anxiety and depression, you just touched upon that.
Yes.
I want to talk about today, when people are in lockdown and they are away from, there is a question here that has just come up. If you just give me a second. Sorry, a lot of questions are coming in, so I'm trying to, okay, before I go to that, I seem to have lost that question. Salams, if statistics could be shared for autism within our community, we will appreciate that. And what is the Islamic perspective of dealing with autistic people or children?
Okay, so maybe I can help with autism part, but Syed will give me Islamic perspective because he's the right person. But see, again, one thing to reiterate, that mental health conditions does not mean everything to do with brain is mental health condition. They are developmental disorder, they are neurological disorder, and then they are mental health conditions. So when we talk of mental well-being, it's to do with mental health condition, which is anxiety, depression, and, you know, psychosis and all that. Panic disorders and all that go under anxiety. When you talk of autism, it's basically a developmental disorder, yeah? So it does not fall under mental health condition. It's a developmental disorder. I don't have statistics for our community, and unfortunately, not for East Africa, because we are very, maybe we don't carry research, so we don't have much data on East Africa. But I can surely get you the data on the world on autism spectrum. I can surely get you data on that.
Thank you. Said, you want to add anything to that?
As far as dealing with anybody is concerned, whether somebody is autistic or he or she is not autistic, dealing with individuals with care, dealing with individuals politely, dealing with interacting with individuals, it doesn't have to be somebody who is autistic. If autism, for example, has its own symptoms, has its own behavior patterns, has its own issues that they have to deal with, I believe the awareness of autism in itself, or somebody who is autistic, to be aware of what autism is, to be aware of how these individuals think, how they function, how they behave themselves, is of utmost importance to the members of the community who have to deal and interact with them on a daily basis, so they can understand that the behavior of this individual is not a behavior that they are deliberately manifesting within themselves, but it is a behavior that is connected to the condition that they are going through. And therefore, if somebody is aware on the other side that this individual or those individuals are living that particular life, then it becomes easy for them to be able to deal with them rather than judge them and judge their behaviors and write them off.
Shabir Bhai, as someone who travels very often with these LDP courses and whatever you do, you contribute to society, where do you think our community is in terms of, for example, there's a question here, do we have mental health first aiders in our Jamaat, and are they qualified? So you being an expert in this field, especially traveling so much, where do you think we stand?
Okay, so yes, we do have people, professionals in mental health field, and we do have mental health professionals in Nairobi, Mombasa, Dar es Salaam, and Arusha, Jamaats, if you are talking of Jamaat. The rest of the Jamaats not yet. But yes, we have professionals. The only problem that I see many a times is the fear of, and I want to touch this very much, is confidentiality. And I come across this a lot because many a times a person will say, I really need help, but not from Mishnashri. You know, find me any other mental health professional. But it is not only in our community, because I work with lots of communities. In other communities, they tell you, please find me somebody else. Let me go to Ishnashri. And that is fine, because there is a stigma and people feel that maybe they will be judged. It's just a fear. So I don't see a problem, but I do want to insist that we need to build a culture of confidentiality where we trust our people as our brother. And Sayed highlighted very good point, which was compassion. To any mental health condition, I would say compassion is what we need, and being non-judgmental is what we require, and awareness. Because many a times I have also seen that people want to help, but because of unawareness, they don't know how to help. So they are scared to help, or they might help in a way that will cause more damage than help. Yeah. So
what I've seen, Shabir, by what you just said about the idea of confidentiality, this is where our religious scholars come in, because I feel, and I've seen this, that our youth will go to a religious scholar more easily and feel more confident speaking to them under confidentiality than perhaps a professional. Is this what is really the mindset?
Well, we ourselves, we have taught our, which is very good thing, that we, since childhood, we are taught to believe in religion. We are taken to mosque, so there is that trust. And obviously, where I grew up, I know times are changing, but where I grew up, a religious scholar had a very high status in the eyes, so much so that I was not, which was not right thing, but I was not allowed to even ask questions. But that superiority, so that trust was there, that he's senior, he's better than me. That was inculcated in my beliefs. However, when it comes to mental health conditions, Nazir, I would tell you, it starts from childhood. When a child is misbehaving, what do you tell him? What would you do to him? I have seen people say, I don't know, somebody will take you. And that somebody, either Babu Ki, you know the funny names, Babu Kikapu, I don't know, Babu this one, is a person going through mental health condition. He's not a person who's diabetic. He's not religious scholar. He's not a person who is going through cancer. No, it's a person going through mental health condition. So we subtly inculcate this fear around mental health conditions. And because of that fear of mental health condition, there is fear of mental health practitioners as well. Can I go? Can I talk? What will he think? Will it portray me as a weak? You know, such kind of questions. So yes, that is the other side of coin. And as professionals in the community, I think we need to walk our talk so that we can win the trust of the youths of the community.
Said, Saab, living in the West for so many years, I'm sure you've come across youths that have issues and they discuss that in confidentiality. How far do you perhaps suggest to them, okay, you've told them what perhaps you can tell them. Do you then refer them to professionals? Is this something that we encourage in general?
That should be the case. As far as you have asked me the question is concerned, as far as I am concerned, an individual may come with whatever issue he or she may have and have a discussion about that issue. And we try our best to deal with the situation as it is, to the ability that we have with regard to the issues that they are having. However, when it becomes an issue that is beyond our expertise, it is a religious obligation from people like myself and the scholars to actually guide them and lead them to the experts and assure them that these experts are out there who will be able to assist you in full confidence. It is our responsibility. I do that myself, and I am sure other scholars around here in the West or anywhere else in the world probably do that. But it is, I believe, a religious obligation upon me to raise my hands up and say that this is an area that is not the area of my expertise, and encourage them to go and see the experts in that particular field who will be able to assist them, rather than me taking the responsibility of telling them that I have opened this particular book of Islam and of Fal and you have been possessed, or I can remove a jinn from you or a demon from outside you. No, I think the recognition and the awareness of this has to be of paramount importance for each and every one of us. And yes, I think I do guide or tell the people who come to me with those kind of issues, I do tell them that they require an expert assistance in this. And I think it should be the case with everyone. Although from the other side, sometimes people who have not gone through Hawza studies or have not studied Islam, they become scholars themselves, and they challenge the scholars without that particular knowledge. It should be the same as far as the scholar is concerned. If he is unable and it is outside, beyond his or her ambit, they must send people to those who are experts and encourage them that these people will not judge you, and encourage them that these people will assist you, and encourage them that these people will keep everything confidential.
Now, we do have a couple of comments. One comment, in fact, I was just going to even say it myself, but it came through here. There's a proposal, Shabir Bhai, that resident alims must be trained in handling mental health issues, counseling, and this should be made mandatory. And the role of a resident alim must also be redefined. What are your thoughts on that?
Alhamdulillah, I'm glad to say that out of the 4 Jamaats that I mentioned, 2 Jamaats resident alims have already gone through this training of mental health first aid. So it becomes easier to connect and communicate. And as Sayyid Muhammad first said, so we use both. We do the secular part whereby there are therapies and everything, but we also don't want to shake somebody's belief totally and make them so vulnerable, yeah? And so if they go to Sayyid, like to resident alim, he would also say, okay, you can recite Alhamd or, whatever surah he gives them, like just for that building confidence and, belief. But at the same time, he keeps me posted that this is happening and this is happening. So these things are very crucial, and I think it is very important. I cannot talk about counseling part because I do understand resident alims have lots of duties with madrasas and with 5-time prayers, and there might be other issues pertaining to tabligh. But at least, yes, we should work hand in hand, and they should be aware of what is going through the community.
Said, your thoughts on that suggestion by one of our viewers?
I think it's very encouraging to hear the fact that that there needs to be a coordination between the experts in the field of whatever the area is. For example, in this case, we are discussing mental health issues. I think it's very encouraging, and it will be a wonderful thing to be able to assist and develop the resident ulama to be able to deal with the primary situations initially, and be able to then decide themselves as to whether they can deal with the situations together themselves, or they send them to those who are expert in these fields. I do not know what when you said redefine the position of the resident alim, I do not know what it means by redefinition, but if it means in the context of them being developed to be able to deal with situations and people who come to them, then I think it's a very encouraging statement, and I welcome it very much, and I think it is a wonderful thing to be able to.
We have one question here. What about addressing personality disorders like OCD, bipolar anxiety disorders, split personality, trauma and narcissism? Are they addressed in our community as they should be?
So as far as I'm concerned, the awareness has to be there first. And the community needs to know that these are disorders rather than judging individuals. For example, as I mentioned to you yesterday, Nazir, in the olden days, if somebody behaved differently, the first statement was, this guy has lost it up there, without being able to see what the individual is going through, whether it is a trauma they have gone through, whether it is grief they have gone through. They have behaved in a particular way, and we as a community or members of the community have judged them. when the awareness of mental health issues is magnified and given to the people, and people are made aware that these are situations that exist in our community, for example, or members of the community, it becomes easier then to be able to deal with individuals accordingly. Otherwise, it will always be the same old thing, that this is how it is, and people will be distant away from us, those who are suffering, because they feel that they are being judged and discriminated against.
So everybody, you want to add anything to this last comment that we received?
Yes, so one of the things that I really stress on is exactly what, again, Sayed said, we have so many negative words towards people going through mental health condition. So first, as rightly said, there are lots of disorders which are neurological, developmental, behavioral, and we classify them all together as, charyo, one word, be it mental health condition, be it anything. So we need to have awareness first. Secondly, these words should be totally stopped, like charyo, or I've even heard a parent say, my child is bipolar. Who said your child is bipolar? Why are you labeling him as bipolar, So we need to be mindful of these words. Yes, there is need of creating awareness. But first thing that we, as all the individuals who are listening out there, and I would like to request, is stop these negative words, because they've got very wrong connotation to it. As Sayed rightly said, people are going through lots of issues. It might be bereavement, it might be stress, it might be divorce, it might be family issues, could be anything. Stop labeling them. And especially there are this connotation of Munjaro family, and then the whole family, even getting, I'm sorry, but I want to touch this point, even getting girl from that family is prohibited. Why? Because that family is Munjaro family. And what happens is actually somebody suffered depression or battled depression in that family. Totally wrong concept, So we need to be the ambassador and talk about these conditions like we talk about any other conditions, and stop labeling people.
Yeah, and Quran in Surah Hujurat, I believe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts it beautifully in the surah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا يسخر قوم من قوم عسى أن يكون خيرا منكم. Don't mock each other, don't make jokes of each other. Maybe in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who is being mocked and joked is better than you. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues, ولا نساء من نساء عسى أن يكون خيرا منهن ولا تلمزوا أنفسكم ولا تنابزوا بالألقاب. Don't find faults in people. Don't call them by nicknames. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran. And these are the things, when you find yourself to be superior and somebody who is behaving in a particular way to be inferior than you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is prohibiting this and saying, do not do this. For the people, وَلَا تَنَابَزُوا بِالْأَلْقَابِ. Don't call them by names that will affect them, that will affect their state, that will hurt their heart. And so it is very important that we stop labeling people with whatever they are going through. Yes, I agree 100% with Shabir.
Okay, we have barely 10 minutes left, and right now there's no more questions, but there was one question. I'm just going to ask this in passing. Maulana Sahib, someone is saying, can you recite a couple of lines of Qasida?
Maybe they will arrange another program for me. I will do it for them then, inshallah. Not here.
Inshallah. We have 10 minutes left. And what I really want from the yes, Shabir Bhai, first carry on, please, before I say.
Yeah, Nazir, I just wanted to give the statistics that I promised.
Okay.
In US, it's usually 1 out of 54 children. That's the statistic I'm getting for autism spectrum. And worldwide is 1 in 160. Now, I have not actually studied into depth as why in US it's showing a greater figure or statistics rather than the worldwide, but I can surely work on it and come back. Because
maybe from today that will change.
Oh yeah, positive thinking. Yes, because you have some time. Also, I wanted to say, how could people take care of their well-being and mental health conditions? So their well-being, so that they don't develop mental health condition, especially during these challenging times when we are kind of sometimes required to do social distancing, or sometimes people going through COVID are even, secluded. Is that okay with you? I don't know.
Yes, in fact, that was one of the things I wanted to touch. I just couldn't find the question regarding COVID and seclusion and all that.
Yeah, so usually we say the very first thing is be connected with people. Again, here the digital technology plays a good part, that you might be in seclusion for the physical health, but be connected. Don't let your thoughts overtake you and start, having negative chatter in the brain. So rather be connected with people. It is also scientifically proven that we have innate need of growth as human beings. So learn something new, something that you have not been doing, because it gives you sense of achievement. It tells you can do it, and it also increases your knowledge. So learn something new. Pay attention. Again, mindful living in the present moment. So these breathing exercises, meditation, very good. Not necessarily to do it on the Eastern methodology, but we can always meditate on Allah's names. Why not? And then be physically active, because previously it was believed that maybe our brain talks to our gut, but now it is proven that actually serotonin is more produced in our gut. So we need to have be mindful of healthy eating and then exercising. So these are a few things that can really help to manage your well-being and avoid triggering situations to worsen and go into mental health conditions.
Very insightful for that. Thank you, Shabir Bhai. Maulana Saib, before we close up for tonight, is there anything you'd like to express?
Yes, my final thoughts with regard to this is sometimes, and I find this extremely difficult to fathom, the fact that sometimes people will meet you or meet these people who are going through mental health issues, and one of the comments that they will be given, or the people who they are interacting with, will be, you, a Muslim who prays, who fasts, you are having issues of mental health, you are having issues of this, you don't have enough iman in you, you have lost your faith. I think that is a very dangerous thing as far as the one who you are talking to is concerned. It is not that they are behaving in that particular manner, that they do not have iman in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and if you have iman in him, that you will not be suffering from mental health issues. We have had prophets, for example, who have gone through huge trauma, who have experienced symptoms of the trauma within them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about this in Quran. For instance, when Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam was, when he lost Yusuf through his brothers and they came back and informed him, Yaqub alayhi salam says, Ya asafa ala Yusuf. He talked about the grief that he had on the loss of Yusuf. Allah says the impact of that grief on Nabi Yaqub was such, فَبْيَضَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ. He lost his eyesight as a symptom of the grief that he went through. فَبْيَضَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ. He lost his eyesight. وَهُوَ كَظِيمٌ. And he suppressed his feelings that were going through him. He suppressed them. This is known, and I was reading about it today, this is known as a somatic symptom. It is a symptom that is generated within the physical being of the individual from a psychological condition that he or may have. So you see here, Yusuf alayhi salam, Yaqub alayhi salam, you think he did not have iman? He also went through a trauma. He also had to deal with the trauma to the extent that he lost his eyesight to the trauma that he went through. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says that he suppressed his feelings. He suppressed what he was going through. And this is where I am inferring this from, that as far as him suppressing his thoughts was probably because he was unable to speak to the brothers of Yusuf, because he had a suspicion that they had done something to him. So he had nobody to talk to about the grief that he had gone through. And probably here is where we can take out and extract from this particular verse that it is very important to talk about these issues and not keep them inside you, so that somebody can help you, because otherwise the effects of this can manifest themselves in your daily life, making your life very difficult to live. But to say to somebody you don't have Iman is a very insulting to the individual you will be speaking to, or to say to somebody like this. I think it is something that should not be allowed.
Sorry, there was a lot to digest. Very, very insightful indeed, Syed. So I think I gave some pointers out to our audience. As you have been talking, I've been typing it down. Hopefully this will help those who are tuning in. The audience is usually bigger during the week, so the number of views will probably go up and more people will get in tune later on this week. Shabir Bhai, I want to thank you for your time. It was a pleasure having you with us, and we look forward to hosting other programs around your expertise, and perhaps see you soon, inshallah. Sayyid Naqvi, Sayyid Muhammad, for me, there's no greater honor than having you in front of my screen. And this is something that we've all wanted for a while, to have you with us and join our program. And alhamdulillah, that has happened. So thank you for giving us this opportunity. It is an honor for us.
Jazakallah. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Yes, Nazir, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Akhi. It's always a pleasure connecting to you, Syed.
Thank you.
And Nazir, I would just like to end up with one word, one phrase. And I usually say there is no health without mental health. I think if people ponder on it, there is lots that I've said in this phrase, because when somebody is physically challenged or having differently able, still if they have proper mental health, they can do anything. I remember a lady, Arunima Sinha, whose both legs were amputated, but could conquer Everest. So physically she was challenged, but her mental health was in the right place, and that's why she could conquer it. So I again end with saying that there is no health without mental health.
And you know, people are going to Google it, right? Social media all the way. So they're just going to go and find out.
Yeah.
But thank you for that, inshallah. Sayyid Naqvi, we are going to look forward to the Qasida. Maybe it's one of these days, but you will join us in a program in the future, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Okay, Shabir Bhai, you too. Okay, Khuda Hafiz, thank you.
Inshallah.